可以说话。
1、2、3，1、2、3。Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We should get started. It's already 9 o'clock. Today, our activity will be conducted bilingually in both Chinese and English because most of our audience are international scholars and students. So without further ado, the Assistant University Librarian is going to begin by making opening remarks. Let's welcome Wang Meijun.
Good morning. I'd like to thank everyone for being here this morning, especially to Professor Rao and the students from Institute of Linguistics. Our university librarian is on her business trip to Donggang. I am on behalf of her to welcome you all to this final project presentation. First of all, I would like to express our appreciation for Professor Rao. She has dedicated herself completely to this book, library book acquisition project, forensic linguistics. Thanks to her, our library collection on linguistics has increased enormously. This project would have not been successful without collaboration of several professors from Department of Law. I would like to express our appreciation here as well. The book project for humanities and social sciences research, funded by Ministry of Science and Technology, has been implemented from 2006 through 2017. Our university has gotten grants over 50 million NT dollars in total from 29 subject areas during 9 years. Among them, there were 5 subject areas related to Institute of Linguistics. We would like to give credit to the good work of professors involved. In the process of applying the project, library helped with public meeting and providing related book lists. When the project has been approved, we took charge of acquisition, cataloging, shelving, display of books, and especially new book promotion like today. We sincerely hope that faculty members and students would use these collections and benefit from them. Finally, I would like to thank Professor Rao for this wonderful presentation. Wish you all success on the following sessions. Thank you.
I would like to thank Ms. Wang for the introduction. In fact, she was given last-minute notice yesterday afternoon, and then she quickly prepared an opening remarks like that. So we all should be very flexible. When there's an important moment, we need to be always prepared or well prepared for the unexpected moment. Now we are going to begin to introduce the why and how of our project. Actually, I entitled our presentation today as Teaching and Learning Forensic Linguistics Using CCU Library Resources, because we don't want to just simply store all the books in the library without any use. So I like to put it into our practice. When we teach, we want to make the best use of the resources we spend so much money on. So today, let me first briefly tell you our agenda. Altogether, we have an hour and a half after our assistant university librarian's opening remarks, this is our agenda today. And we have several interesting presentations. And finally, we end with a Q&A. So we will follow our schedule very closely because I know everybody is very busy. So we want to make the best use of our time too. So let me begin by introducing the why and how. Of course, there are two people behind the scene. One is the university librarian, Professor Cai Longting. The other is Mr. Eric Chen Yingzhang, who actually provided a lot of assistance behind the scene by calling for proposals and providing all kinds of assistance and motivation so that we feel okay, we can spare extra time applying for another project. And especially Mr. Eric Chen, who actually did the majority of the work behind the scene. He prepared the list of books and made contacts through different channels. So to make the whole work very easy to carry out. And also, I'd like to thank Professor Jin Dai Hao Yi, who also, during the process of application, he came to the library to give a presentation on how to apply for a project like that. So we felt, okay, if there is somebody who succeeded before and who could give us resources to follow and even the format of the proposal, we had no worry. We said, all right, then if he can succeed, we can too. So we want to thank him. Originally, he wanted to come, but in the last minute, he had another appointment, so he cannot come today. But he will express his appreciation later in a video. And the next person I'd like to appreciate is Professor A.D. Shi, previous director of OIA. When I came to Zhongzheng University, she invited me about 8 years ago. She invited me to collaborate with her on co-teaching or co-designing a lot of courses in between linguistics and law. As an applied linguist, social linguist, I decided to contribute a course on forensic linguistics. Actually, I called it, I didn't call it forensic linguistics because it's too threatening. This title is too daunting, too threatening. People would feel, what is this all about? We changed the title into intercultural communication, demystifying courtroom conversations. Just to make it softer, people understand, okay, this is communication, except the context is the courtroom. It's in the legal context. And I also like to thank two international advisors, Professor Roger Shai and Professor Malcolm Coulthard. These two figures are really the most famous, world-known scholars in forensic linguistics. Professor Roger Shai is an emeritus professor at Georgetown University in the US. Professor Coulthard is also an emeritus professor at Aston University, UK. So we have two outstanding, first-class international forensic linguists on board. Of course, I can guarantee that the books we acquired based on their advice are really the most important books. Basically, there are two related fields in forensic linguistics. One is to study how to assist lawyers with the language evidence. The other is not concerning lawyers. It's simply just linguistic analysis of statutes, the language of judges, and other matters that do not involve linguist participation in specific law cases. So these are the two major areas. And also, there are 4 major directions. When we acquire our books, we follow this direction. Number 1, statutory language. Courtroom discourse, translation, and interpretation in multilingual contexts. Number 2, language and the criminal justice system, including police interviews, undercover sting operations, courtroom testimony, and confessions. Number 3, language evidence in civil cases such as trademarks, contracts, copyright, discrimination, and product warning labels. Number 4, other legal cases in which language is often the primary evidence, such as authorship analysis and speaker identification. So these are the 4 areas that we covered, both in our course and also in our book acquisition project. Of course, now I'm going to introduce the co-PI, my co-PI, Professor Liao Huiwen, who is also the department head of the Department of Law. Professor Liao is going to also say a few words.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to say some words. I can only say just short, because I've done only small things for this project. The great things was done from Professor He. At first, I come to library to hear the introduction, how to work with this project. And Professor He had invited me to enjoy his plan. What I done, ganz little things. I write some emails to my friends. They research law, but the most of my friends rejected. They were too busy. So I'm somehow shy to speak these short words, but I'm very pleased, really. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Professor Liao actually helped me get connected with the law department. That's very crucial because we need to collaborate with each other. Usually we are very isolated. We are only doing our own business in our own department. We don't even talk to our own faculty members sometimes. And I'm also privileged to have 2 collaborating professors who will later give short presentations on what they taught us in our class. They are already here. Both of them are here. Okay, now it's 9:15. It's time to introduce my assistant, Jason Huang Duanjie, who is going to show you a video clip that he did to give you a general idea, a snapshot of what we did in this project. Jason?
Hello everyone, my name is Jason, and I would like to show you my video, the video that I made for this project, and it's about 3 minutes or more. every student that they present their exemplar article for their term paper. That's me. We invited Professor Yao to have a speech for us. And then on
这是那个法律语言采访。谁担任翻译？因为我觉得这件事情真的很不容易。我也真的希望以后我的中文会有进步，而且这个是我难懂的。
we also visit Joy District Court, and that's all of us. Okay, so the project through the year was very impressive to me. Thank you. Oh, no, what's that?
Thank you, Jason. All right, and in the next few minutes, I'm going to briefly present to you a book that we used in our course, which is called An Introduction to Forensic Linguistics, written by these three authors. Malcolm Coulthard is one of our international consultants. And this book has been very popular. In this book, basically, we use case studies. There are 5 cases in here. The first one is about whether Jaffa cakes are cakes or biscuits, okay? Whether it's cake or biscuit, that's a big matter, because if it's cake, it doesn't require taxes. If it's a biscuit, it has to be taxed. So you have to prove whether Jaffa cakes are really cakes. If it's cake, then it will turn hard when it goes stale. A cake will turn hard after a long time. A biscuit will turn soft after a long time. So you can do an experiment to see if this thing turns soft or hard. And it turned out Jaffa cakes turned hard. So it is a cake. Okay, that's the first story. The second story is about Harold Shipman, who was a physician, but then he killed several patients. He also forged the will of Kathleen Grundy. So by applying discourse analysis, we can find out how he forged the will. The third case is related to copyright. Here, the Da Vinci Code author Dan Brown did not breach the copyright of an earlier book, which is called The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail. And the reason why it's not infringed, Professor Yao is going to give a presentation later related to this case. but with different books. The fourth story is concerning brand name. For example, Google. Is Google already becoming generic? When you search something, you say, let me Google it. Let me Google this, let me Google that. So Google has become a everyday language, an everyday word, meaning search. But here, Google successfully defends its most valuable asset in court. In other words, Google doesn't think the name Google has become generic. It still has to be protected. The very last story is about a killer who later was found by analyzing audio tapes. So by applying acoustic analysis, linguists can find out if the accent belongs to certain specific accent. Okay, and then we can point out or rule out people who are not murderers. So these are some of the cases we covered in our class, and we also asked students to find their own interesting cases and their own directions for further research. Okay, so in our intercultural communication class, our goals are as follows. Basically, we are training students to act and work as applied linguists and social linguists who know all the tools in linguistics to discover and to identify evidence in legal cases. Okay, I just finished my brief introduction of our course. And in our course, we have two collaborating professors. One is Professor Wang Zhengjia, who introduced to us the so-called mock court. And he also gave us an open door for our students to experience what it's like in a court situation, how they feel, what it feels like to be the defendant or the plaintiff or an interpreter. So our students, both Finda and Jason and another Chinese-Indonesian student, Novita Danjaya, worked together to learn new experience from Professor Wang's introduction. Our students prepared the case. Actually, Professor Wang taught us a lot, and I'm going to turn the floor to Professor Wang, who is going to tell you what he taught us in our class. Professor Wang.
Is it bilingual, so I can speak Chinese? No?
Let's speak Chinese.
Okay, thank you, Professor. And I just want to introduce to you, in my class, I cooperate with the Professor and the students. We have the cross-examination in the court. Basically, I teach mock code, but I didn't have the chance to express the foreign witness. But I think it's getting important in Taiwan, especially we have many contact with the foreign, and we have many foreign sponsors here. Yeah. So in this case, we got a victim. In fact, she's a victim of foreign sponsors in Taiwan. So she became a witness in the courtroom. So my student need to act as prosecutor, judges, and lawyers, defendant lawyers to cross-examine the students. So I think it's it's very important for us the cross-examination in the protocol and also in the courtroom. So according to our Criminal Process Act, it's a way to present witness evidence to the courtroom. Okay, so we need to, to practice this. Okay. Then I think we got a second chance to examine the interpreters in the courtroom. Just as I said, the foreign witness is getting much more in Taiwan. So in our case, the offender and the Bao Yu, yeah, you saw her in the video. Yeah, she practiced as interpreters. So our student thing is very hard thing to do because we need to say in Chinese, then she transferred to Indonesia, then Indonesia to Chinese to us. I think it's a hard work to do in the conversation. Even in the courtroom is more difficult. So I chose a real case. It's happened in Jiayi, Zhuqi. It's how to say the mother-in-law want to have a baby, so he asked his son to marry a Indonesia sponsor. Then
Spouse.
A spouse. Okay, spouse. Yeah. So she wished them to have baby as quick as possible. So he did something wrong. Yeah. So that's the case. But in the case, I think there's not only the language but also the content. Legal words to say in Chinese it's difficult to understand. Yeah, so I think for me I can find some problem in Taiwan. It's the interpreters. There is a news before an interpreter in the police office he transferred by his way, not by what the police asks. So I think maybe we can have a further research about this, and I think it will be a very important thing in Taiwan. Thank you. That is my presentation.
Yeah, later our students will also tell you their experience when they were standing there, as Binda standing there, and where's Jason? Jason is somewhere there. They role played the victim. They are actually both victims, right? In a sense, they are both victims. Yeah, because they were forced by the mother-in-law to produce children. Next, I'm going to show you. In addition to mock court, we also invited Professor Yao Qing'an to teach us something about property rights from a law professor's perspective. Okay, Professor Yao is going to show us. When he was in our class, he actually made a big impact on Bitong because of one, explanation. Now he's going to do that.
Okay. Thank you, Professor He, and thank you everyone for giving me such a chance to introduce my introduction in the class. I delivered a case of intellectual property right in the class, and that case specifically about copyright issue. And hold on. Yeah. So the concept I want to give the student is whether plagiarism equals copyright infringement. And that's the big problem in Taiwan and also in the world now, because some people think if somebody copy someone's idea, then that will be plagiarism, and that will go against the law. But, well, it depends, right? Sometimes when we copy someone's expression or the content of the work, yes, probably it will offend someone and also infringe someone's copyright. But sometimes when we say plagiarism, it's not really about the law. It's only about someone appropriate somebody's idea or somebody's the facts someone discovered. Okay. So in the class, I introduced a case called Holling versus Universal City Studios, and the basic fact is Holling the plaintiff wrote a book titled "Who Destroyed the Hindenburg," and he actually did really deep research on the history about the Hindenburg, the ship, right? And in the book, the main idea is, according to the historical research, he believed that someone sabotaged the Hindenburg. But that's totally different from the former research, because former research believes that Hindenburg is what's that? The explosion was an accident. Okay? So then later, another person called Michael Mooney wrote another book called The Hindenburg and borrowed and consulted a lot of ideas or facts from the book of Holling. So Holling sued Mooney and Universal Studio, and because later Mooney's book became the script of the movie, which filmed by the Universal Studio. So the problem is, the issue of the case is, Holling said because Mooney borrowed or Universal Studio borrows major fact show in the book, and also the plot and the characters of the book. So Universal Studio and Mooney infringed the Holling's copyright. But Second Circuit, the court said here, the historical interpretation or factual information is not copyrightable. Actually, later, the Supreme Court of the United States confirmed the idea of a second delivered by the Second Circuit. So, and the court said, scenes of fair are not copyrightable because it is impossible to write about particular historical era or fictional thing without employing certain standard literary devices. So, for example, when we want to talk about the story of pirate, so there are certain things and scenes of fairs they use, right? For example, pirate needs to be, I don't know, they need to wear certain suits, right? And parrot or monkeys will stand on the shoulder of the captain, something like that. So when another book use this kind of fact, it will not be infringement. Okay, that's what the court said. So even if the second author bodily appropriate the similar expression of the author, the appropriation should be substantial. So that's another issue that, yes, when someone appropriate somebody's expression, that probably will infringe the author's right. But the court said, no, not every case is infringement because this appropriation should be substantial. That means here, of considerable quantity, importance, size, or worth. Okay, so in this case, the decision of the court actually tell us that appropriation of expression is not, how can I say it? Like, not every case is infringement case. Okay, so you need the borrowing should be substantial, and the borrowing should be expression, not idea or fact itself. Okay, so that's all. I think that's all the introductions of the case I showed in the class, and thank you.
Yes. So we can see that there's always room for interpretation. That's why lawyers have a job, right? And that's also interesting for linguists who can look at all these different interpretations and learn about how flexible language can be and how much you can play with language. Okay? Next. Now we're going to ask our participant, Afinda Samosir, to share with us her reflections and her experience when she role-played the Indonesian spouse who was forced to have sex with her mentally retarded Taiwanese husband. But she refused to do it. But as a result, she got sexually assaulted by her husband. All right? So now let's welcome Linda to share with us.
Okay, thank you. So, how is this? Yeah, so so this is my reflection about the courtroom. First time when we collaborate with law department in class, I think it's accidentally. Since we invite Professor Wang to our class to have a presentation about about courtroom, and Professor Rao just have an idea about how about we collaborate and have a case and use our student to feel to experience how is it in the courtroom. And I felt so shocked at the time, and I thought that it will be exciting. And the case, I got a script of the case, like Professor Rao said before. It's about Indonesian woman who married retarded Taiwanese man and got sexual assault. And I, as a victim, at the courtroom, I only speak Indonesian, and for me, it's really hard, I think. A little bit hard, because I need to know the whole story. And sometimes when when the judges questioning me, like they have a tricky question. Yeah, they ask about some drugs, and I need to explain about what kind of drug is that. Is that really how the shape? And I need to, but in the story they didn't explain about what the shape, and it's a little bit tricky for me. And I feel like, did I give wrong information? So yeah, I feel so nervous at the time. And I think the case story is quite interesting. Yeah, the courtroom looks so real. They questioning me, and it's really looks so real, and I feel so nervous. And they collect the evidence from my answer. So, and I need to prove that I said the truth based on the story. And I think it's so fun to experience the feeling in the court. Thank you.
In fact, when they were talking to each other, the interpreter tried to interpret it into Chinese. But as Chen Baoyu said in the video, her Chinese is really not that good. As a result, I was listening to, I understand both Indonesian and Chinese, and I listened to her interpretation. Oh my God, she just said whatever she wanted to say. It's not really good direct, well, it's direct translation, but sometimes she misunderstood the judges or the lawyers' questions. So as a result, when she reflected on it, she said, "Oh, I wish my Chinese were better." Yeah, and especially when she was put in that situation, it's nerve-wracking. Oh my gosh, she was nervous. Yeah, and our victim, Finda, was also nervous, and Finda sometimes was wondering what she translated because other people were laughing, but she was serious. How come other people were laughing? So there must be some problem. Yes, there is some problem. But you can try. If you were put in that situation, see if you can interpret professionally without training. It's very hard. Okay. Of course, it takes two to tango, right? It takes two. The other person who played the role of the mentally retarded Taiwanese husband is Jason. Jason didn't know he would be asked to play that role, but he was, very willing to sacrifice himself to serve that role. Jason, now he is going to tell you his reflection.
Okay.